friends! In this video, I wanted to show you how I draw female bodies from reference photos. Even if you're a beginner and not super familiar with anatomy, I feel like this still may help you because this is how I started, so let's get into it. Choosing the right reference. When I'm looking for a pose, I try to avoid flat or straight on angles unless that's what you're intentionally going for. I try to find poses with an interesting line of action because it kind of helps with the overall composition of the drawing anyway, and it helps me study as well. So instead of something like this, I would probably choose something like this instead. When you're first starting out, it's important to know that every single pose can be broken down into simple shapes. If you are a beginner to anatomy, it is rather helpful tracing over a couple poses just so that your brain can start to see things that you don't notice. See? Simple shapes. So for this first pose, we're going to start with a basic standing pose that's slightly off center. Let's go ahead and identify our line of action along with the shoulder line and the hip line. I usually tend to start with the head, get the angle down, and then I go in with the line of action and try to block everything in. Here you really want to pay attention to the angle in which each part is facing, and that's about all you want to worry about for now. Just try to get the base down. Feel free to adjust however you need, especially if you're working digitally. I find it helpful to have a 1-to-1 ratio of the reference in your sketch so you can work on the proportions and see how things line up a bit better. And here we are. Even with limited anatomy knowledge, just by looking at the picture, breaking it down into simple shapes, it kind of takes form of its own. So let's try another one with a bit more variation to it. Her hips are way more tilted than the last pose, so let's focus on the shoulder and the hip line to try to get the right placement, and then we can start to block in the rest. Look at that, I think she turned out kind of cute. How I handle difficult poses. Eventually, you'll run into a pose that just really trips you up, and for me, it's usually sitting poses or ones with foreshortening, but don't worry. If you come across a pose like this, just start sketching what you see. Don't worry about if it looks good or not, just get the basic form down as well as you can. So once you get the form down, you can start to look back and forth between the reference. You can notice that there's more negative space between the arms. You can start to see the difference between the foot going a bit too far back. The entire drawing itself is not the same size, so we can start to make some changes. So if we start to notice things like that, we can just apply them to our drawing. It's kind of like one of those spot the difference games in the old magazines that we all used to do. Now that I have a good sketch down, I usually like to go over it with the changes that I'm seeing in the reference and make a second sketch. And look at that, just from analyzing the reference just one time and applying it to our sketch, it already looks so much better. The more you analyze your sketches like this, the faster you'll improve and start to notice the mistakes you're making, and you'll be able to fix them quicker. Don't be scared to utilize your tools. It's 2025 and we have so many tools at our disposal to help us with drawing. Especially if you're working digitally, there are so many tools that will make the process a bit easier and will help with the learning. Don't be scared to move things around, try different things. It will train your eye to decipher what's right and what's wrong. When you start to do this, I feel that it shows you the mistakes that you're making consistently. If I'm making an arm too long every time and I'm constantly warping it to be a bit shorter, that will start to stick in my mind and I'll remember not to do that. So it kind of helps with that learning a bit. Make friends with your mistakes. When learning any new craft, mistakes are obviously part of the process, and with drawing, it's no exception. It takes a lot of practice to be able to see things from a certain perspective in order to translate it to a drawing. You should welcome mistakes because that is how you learn to improve a lot quicker. Sometimes when I'm stuck in a pose, another way I will do it is I will duplicate the pose and overlay it onto the reference. That way I can see what I made too big, which proportions are off, and I can kind of compare it and see where to go from there. This is not cheating and it is totally fine to do. So overlaying this, you can already see that the butt part is a bit too high, the back isn't as tilted, and we can start to make those changes. And again, a sketch doesn't have to be exactly like the reference unless you're going for realism, but we're going for a bit more of a stylized approach, so we can get away with a few things. Practice often and don't overthink it. If you make a habit of practicing these things every single day, it will become easier over time. I know at the beginning, this is probably one of the most frustrating parts of drawing is learning anatomy. It seems like you should know these things. You look at bodies every day, you look at your own body and you still can't draw an arm, and it is frustrating. But your brain is not trained to see these things in this way, and that's all we're doing here. We're training our brain to be able to decipher poses so we can do it on our own one day. Lately, I've been doing a whole page of poses every day, and just by doing that, becoming a bit more familiar with different angles and poses and whatnot, it has helped me immensely. Learn something from every sketch that you do, even if it's just something as small as the arm placement. You can still apply that to the next sketch and keep building and building off of that knowledge. I really hope that I was able to help somebody, whether you're a beginner or already an artist. I hope that this was helpful for you and that you learned a few things. Feel free to subscribe for more art stuff and let me know what you'd like to see next. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!